In 1988, a movie called Child's Play was released to theaters that introduced a tiny red-headed, evil doll named Chucky to horror fans everywhere. The basic gist of the story was that a serial killer named Charles Lee Ray gets shot in a shootout, and as he is dying, his soul gets transferred to a nearby doll and he lives on killing for many years to come in the form of a good guy doll. What many don't realize is, the idea behind the doll Chucky has its roots in real life. At the time of this story, Robert the doll is now over 118 years old. His latest home is Fort East Martello Museum in Key West, Florida. His life story and how he ended up there is a terrifying tale indeed. You're now warned. It may change the way you look at dolls from now on, and at the very least, give you nightmares about them for a long time to come. If you're still here, sit back, grab a glass of wine and enjoy the story. It started out with the family hearing a deep voice coming from the doll when Eugene was talking to it. At first, they thought that maybe the boy was doing it, pretending that Robert was talking back to him, but the voice was much too deep for the boy to emulate, and they also caught times when the boy and the voice was talking at the same time, which scared the hell out of them. It got even creepier from there. They would often hear giggling from wherever the doll was, which led to screaming in the night. One particular late night evening, Eugene had went to bed and their parents tucked him in, and as they were about to fall asleep themselves, they heard all kinds of bangs and crashes coming from the boy's room. As they went in to find his room nearly destroyed, the boy was at the foot of the bed, terrified as the doll sat there staring at them from the rocking chair in the corner. Even neighbors would tell them that they had seen the doll through the boy's window moving around by itself. This is when the parents had had enough. They decided to lock the doll in the attic, but even that didn't stop them from hearing evil laughter from the attic above. This is where some of the similarities from the Child's Play movie come in. In the movie, Chucky the doll gets turned into a vicious serial killer by having a soul transferred into it by Charles Lee Ray through a strange voodoo incantation. Sounds like pure movie fiction, but was it? The Otto family was known to have a slavery plantation and wasn't always very kind to their workers. This could have led to the curse of Robert being brought on them. Although the doll was bought by the Steiff Company in Germany, many believe that the woman placed an evil spirit or curse onto the doll as a form of revenge for how she was treated. Others believe that she somehow placed the soul of her deceased daughter in the doll. This would make sense because there had been sightings of a ghostly girl walking throughout the house on many occasions, as well as a girl's laughter being heard coming from areas where there was no one. As the years went on, the elder Otto passed away, leaving a now adult Eugene the family home in Key West. It wasn't long before he got married and became a locally famous painter. He soon met a woman named Anne and got married. All was not going to be happily ever after though. Not if Robert could help it. Eugene went up and got Robert out of the attic and showed his childhood friend to his new bride. To say the least, she was not a fan of Robert. Something about the doll terrified her and she told him that she didn't want anything to do with it. Eugene was not fazed. Not only did he ignore his wife's pleas to keep the doll away from her, he would even sit the doll in a rocking chair in the bedroom while they slept. He even carried the doll around and even sat him near him while he painted. That was not the end of the strangeness though. Far from it. Eugene, who had always been very kind and caring towards Anne, would often become extremely hateful and mean. He even became violent at times, and when he would calm down, he would claim he had no memory of it at all. The funny thing was, it was always in the presence of Robert. When they were away from home and far away from the doll, Eugene was his regular caring self. When he got home and near the doll, it was like a switch was flicked inside him. Eugene passed away in 1974 and died shortly thereafter. It wasn't long before the Key West home had new residents and Robert had a new owner. The new owners had a 10-year-old girl who found Robert and, like young Eugene, absolutely fell in love with the doll. She soon became attached to the doll and the horror began all over again. Things were about to go very wrong for the occupants of Robert's house. Soon, the young child began having horrifying nightmares of Robert and her, as well as her family all began suffering all types of bad luck, ranging from accidents, falls and sickness. When the family learned about Robert from the neighbors and after having experienced all the paranormal horror of the doll finally ended up at the East Martello Museum in Key West, Florida, where you can take a tour and see Robert. Be forewarned though. Just because he's locked behind glass, does not mean his powers have diminished. Many unlucky people who have visited him have found this out the hard way. Robert seems to take offense to people taking his picture without you asking his permission first. Many have done this, only to leave the museum just to suffer accidents, injuries and even death. Some have even mocked the doll, only to suffer in the long run. Many have written apology letters to Robert and sent them to the museum in hopes of undoing the curse that Robert has put on them. If you're brave enough to go on a tour to see Robert up close, just beware. Show respect, and I would avoid taking pictures if I were you. You don't want to anger Robert, do you? Today's story was requested by a hella cool kid named Kai. Thanks for the heads up on the story, buddy. If you liked today's story, you know the drill. Like, subscribe and check out our merch. Pick up a t-shirt to show your support. It's all in the description box below. Drop us a comment and tell us what stories you would like to hear. Till next time.